If you want to take the art of graphic design seriously, this video is going to show you every single step you should take to end up with an effective and an advanced design solution. Now, I know many people learn things from YouTube and other designers like myself, but then when you go to your own work, your own projects, you kind of feel lost. Well, that's where this video is going to help you step by step in a kind of easy to follow process. So get your notepad or your typing fingers ready so you can jot down some ideas, some notes as we move through this important design video. Oh yeah, and actually before we kick into high gear in today's video, a quick thank you and a shout out to Invoice Ninja for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is to define the objective and the audience of our design. Now I'm going to be designing a soap package design later in the video so you can see how this process actually works in real time on a real design. But yeah, first we should establish the audience and the objective of the design. So let's say we're working on the packaging and branding for an organic and somewhat higher end soap product. But how can we determine the objectives of the project that we've actually been given? Well, we need to refer to the brief and the initial client information, of course. And I could extrapolate that the objective is to make the packaging of the soap appear high-end, clean and delicate, whilst adhering to the organic and natural themes of that kind of brand. Our audience are females who can afford to spend above average for some soap and who sometimes like to pamper and indulge themselves while they still feel like they're helping the environment. Now, our soap and brand packaging likely shouldn't be that sort of generic and cheap looking soap, but also I don't want to make a design that is overflowing with opulence and lavish motifs. I want to position it somewhere in the middle, but in the kind of upper middle end, if that makes sense. And of course, you should go into more detail on your target audience and the industry, but it does come down to something important, and that is how much you're getting paid and how much time you wish to spend on a project. It's all relative, of course, to your situation, but you should aim to understand the audience and the objective of the design. So we've established the main audience and the main objective of the design. This is when you need to conduct some good old research. Again, depending on how much you've been paid and how intricate you want your design process to be, will determine how long you spend on the research phase. And I'm not going to talk too long about this, but here are some key points to take away or to keep in mind. The brief is the starting point, of course, and from there you can look into competitors of your client and look at the industry standard. You might go against the industry standard to, well, stand out, or comply with it to fit in. Now, I always point out Snapchat and how they could easily have gone for blue with their brand because it falls in line with the standard for social media brands. But they went against the grain and they opted for a bright and a bold yellow logo and brand, which literally does stand out. Now, you might want to look deeper into your audience, compile mood boards, make sketches, even conduct surveys or browse existing surveys on people relevant to that brand. Again, for the soap packaging that we're soon going to design, I want to gather all sorts of information about the audience and the industry, what materials are used in making the soap and the packaging, what feels good in terms of the packaging texture, and so on. And again, this just comes back to knowing your client's industry, the audience, and everything involved with that. Most people would jump straight into the concept creation phase at this point, but I have a different route that does make sense. At this stage, I like to nail down my color palette choices, my shape psychology choices, and typeface selection. Working on the soap brand packaging, I'd now return to the keywords from the objective and the research to make some really clear, decisive choices. Those words are high-end, clean, and delicate. And a pro tip here is to get your objective down to one concise sentence or phrase for that matter, because you can actually come back to it at any point in the design process and you can make things really easy if you do this. All of your design choices should relate back to this sentence. Also in my research, I've established that my target audience are female and they likely adhere to high-end products, or at least don't mess around with cheap and cheerful products. With that in mind, I want to go for a low saturation in my color choice, and that's so the design seems soft and delicate. I also think an off-white or kind of faded white would be a good idea to throw into the mix, and that's to represent the clean side of the brief. Let's also run with purple because it's regal, it's feminine, and it is quite prestigious. But remember, I want to go for a low saturation or something like this, as that would work really well. That's my color scheme decided in correspondence to my research and the brief. Shape psychology is also going to be pretty easy. When considering a feminine product that is meant to be organic, what kind of shapes or shape psychology ideas do you have, or what comes to mind? I'm going to make use of a circular shape in some way on my design, and that's to continue the feminine design narrative, and I think making use of floral motifs will link back to that organic aspect that I want to get across. Also, maybe including horizontal lines would be a great way to express relaxation and peace, something that people who pamper themselves might appreciate. And lastly, for this section, my typography choices. Now for luxury, you'd expect maybe a serif typeface solution. However, I'm going to run with a sans serif, and I don't want the design to look overly serious or just too luxurious. I've elected a thin and sans serif which would communicate luxury and sophistication more than a bold, thicker sans serif. Learning about typeface psychology is absolutely essential to being an optimum and advanced graphic designer, and if you don't know that already, you should be studying it so you're familiar with it in and out. Basically, it's just how typefaces express certain emotions. At this point, you can also consider imagery and textures, but again, it comes down to how much you're being paid and how long you want to spend on a project. Now on my design, I don't want any imagery apart from the organic line drawing patterns of the leaves. And that's because I think the design should be somewhat minimal to convey that clean narrative. Now the texture elements will heavily come down to the materials chosen when printing the design, and that choice would be important to convey the extra layer of luxury and sensation because soap is a very sensual kind of product. I'd opt for something organic and recyclable, but something that feels tactile and not cheap to the touch. Again, every choice we make should be linked back to the objective and the target audience, and this is a quick and a simple demonstration of that. So, when you've got your design to a point where you think it's ready to print or to send to the client, stop. Stop right there, because don't send it just yet. Depending on how much time you have, here are some pro tips that you should keep in mind before printing or sending anything to your client. Firstly, of course, spell check every single thing on your design, and also just look for errors in general. If you're working on a print project, print that puppy out and test to see how it looks in real life, in your hands, and on different kinds of paper. Now you might want to mock up your design in real life situations just to see how it functions. And so for the soap design, maybe it would be wise to see how it looks in a store, on a shelf against other soap products. Also, think about showing your design to other people whose opinion you do value. This entire section at the end here aims to weed out any weakness on your design and also put things into perspective for your design. If your design survives this phase, then it's on to the next phase, which is the presentation. And that's a whole other process in of itself. But importantly, think about this. What have we just done here in today's video? Well, we've gotten to know the main objectives of the brief and the client's project. We've gotten to know their audience. Then we've gone on and made a visual language and narrative based around that. The design ultimately is then really targeted at a group of people, and it has a lot more chance of being successful and effective in the long run. Invoice Ninja is an open source platform focusing on freelance invoicing, payments, and productivity. When a designer starts to make real money in their career, the last thing they want to be doing is just spending a whole bunch of time on paperwork, invoicing, and all the back-end stuff. Invoice Ninja makes everything faster and more simple for you and for me, and it has things like time tracking and project management features, so you can remain laser focused on a project. It has banking integrations, and even inventory and vendor tracking. The invoice templates really do rock as well, and they'll make you look really professional when you shoot over your next invoice to a client. And there are a whole bunch of invoice templates that you can scroll over, browse, and then use on your projects. But yeah, be sure to check out Invoice Ninja down in the description box below and see how it can help your career today. But if you'd like to learn something in terms of advanced psychology and graphic design, just click that video on screen. But until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.